So recently, the El Salvadorian government recognized Bitcoin as legal tender. What this basically means is that Bitcoin can be used in lieu of the local currency, which in this case happens to be the US dollar, in the exchange of goods and services. So vendors will be compelled to accept either Bitcoin or US dollar as they transact. Now, this is being viewed as a significant win for the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets in general. So in this video, what I want to assess is whether this is as significant as it's being made out to be. Now, what I do know is absolutely significant is smashing the like button for the YouTube algorithm so that this video goes out to many different people, as well as subscribing to the channel, and let's get into it. So first thing first, I think it's important to obtain an understanding of the political and the economic environment of El Salvador. So El Salvador is a very small country in Central America and is essentially surrounded by Guatemala, Honduras, as well as Nicaragua. Now, all of these countries have been in the media for a variety of different reasons. Generally speaking, none of it has been positive. It's all generally affiliated with corruption or with gang-related activity, primarily in the movement of drugs. El Salvador has a population of about 6 million people. Its real GDP is around $54 billion, and its GDP per capita, so the GDP divided by the number of people there, is right around $8,400 annually. For comparison purposes, this real GDP number puts El Salvador in the country ranking of around 101st, and the per capita number puts it in all country ranking at 111th, which puts El Salvador squarely in the bucket of a developing nation. While El Salvador is technically a democracy, the actions by the president, Nayib Bukele, and I apologize to everyone from El Salvador for that mispronunciation, it is more demonstrative of an authoritarian regime over a pure play democracy based on the actions that has been more recently taking place in El Salvador. Now, with all of that said, the World Bank does consider this country to have a lot of opportunity, largely due to its strategic location, its growing labor force, and definitely its strong industrial base as well. Now, I know I've said a lot about corruption in this video, and according to Corruption's Perception Index by Transparency International, the country ranks 104th out of 179 countries. And that is why local El Salvadorians are more concerned that the adoption of Bitcoin or the utilization of Bitcoin as legal tender may potentially be utilized in some way to line government officials' pockets. Several people also believe that Bitcoin may be used as legal tender in this country, largely due to potential sanctions or country controls that may be imposed on this nation by the United States due to all of the corruption that's basically happening there. The President Bukele's administration has been charged with a variety of different things, including mismanagement of public resources during the global health crisis, negotiating with gangs, and improper appropriation of tax withholding. So this is all very compelling in terms of determining why is it that this country has decided to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender at this point in time. Now, when it comes to bank accounts, less than 30% of the country actually has access to bank accounts, okay? So it's a very small population, and that's also something that makes Bitcoin rather compelling because it'll give folks more access to financing and loans and all of that type of activity and generally support a very unbanked population. But on the contrary to that, or the corollary to that, is that only 34% of the country actually has access to technology and the internet in general. There is a significant adoption problem for all technology in El Salvador, whether it comes to things such as laptops or even smartphones. So, we need to think about that in the context of how are they actually going to be viewing a digital currency. So there's lots of questions, right? When you're first in anything, you do have to create a path, right, for others to potentially follow, and that is where El Salvador is at this point in time, because they need to address questions such as how do you assess or address the volatility when it comes to Bitcoin? How do you utilize the fees, or what kind of fees will you have when it comes to converting Bitcoin to US dollars, as an example? Will the government potentially be lining themselves up or their own pockets up when it comes to fees on this transfer or this conversion that basically takes place? What is El Salvador going to be doing in the Bitcoin mining space? There's been some newspaper articles around that as well. And the other last question is also just around how do you get a generally technology unsavvy tech-savvy population to adopt a digital currency. Perhaps this can be viewed as more symbolic than anything else with El Salvador's acceptance or adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender. But with all of that said, the adoption of Bitcoin continues to go up every single day. Recently, I saw some articles talking about how funds were including Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a part of people's 401k portfolios, so that will definitely significantly increase the adoption of Bitcoin. I saw other articles which basically talk about how countries such as Paraguay and Argentina and Panama, Nicaragua, all of these countries that generally face a significant amount of hyperinflation, there is a lot of Bitcoin and transactional related activity that basically happens with cryptocurrencies in all of those countries. And even both CNBC and Bloomberg, since this whole adoption thing was basically released with El Salvador, did like an hour-long special just to educate more and more people when it comes to cryptocurrencies as well as Bitcoin in particular. So what am I doing with my own portfolio? Well, quite frankly, for what it's worth, I'm not doing all that much, right? On a monthly basis, I continue to buy cryptocurrencies, which is a very small percentage of my overarching net worth or my overarching portfolio for that matter, right? So in case this whole thing goes down to zero, it's really no big deal and no hair off my back. I continue to buy a various assortment of crypto assets such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, Cardano, Litecoin, a lot of these things that I've talked about in other videos as well. What are my thoughts from a price target perspective? I know like Kathy Wood recently came out and said she had a price target of $500,000 on Bitcoin, but I don't know if that, I would be as compelled to put some number like that on it. Heck, it's hard for me to determine, the current price, right? Like when it said $36,000, is that the right number? Is that a wrong number? Is that significantly undervalued? Is it overvalued? How do you actually arrive at that number beyond just pure supply and demand type of situation? So what are your thoughts when it comes to this whole this El Salvador situation when it comes to Bitcoin? Do you think the country is adopting Bitcoin generally for the benefit of the broader populace? Do you think they're actually doing this to provide more banking and financing type of options to a largely unbanked community? Well, do you think other countries that may not be utilizing, say, the US dollar or the British pound or the yuan may be up next in terms of adopting Bitcoin as legal tender as well? Definitely include all of those thoughts in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed the contents of this video. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.